Hello everyone, Star-Lord is here with another episode of the Star-Lord is Hope for Humanity series. Today's topic is going to be, unfortunately, something we can not avoid if we live here on this earth with other human beings, animals, pets, and so forth. It's about heartbreak, sorrow, loss, grief, and the things that are just a natural part of human life and lifestyle. I wanted to discuss this matter because it's an extremely important matter. It's something that we have all been no stranger to. We've all dealt with this type of situation. It's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. And here are my practices. This is what I find works really well in order to help integrate the pain of loss, sorrow, and grief. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing up is when we experience separation, loss, heartbreak in terms of a relationship that sort of goes south, and it can be extremely, if it was a very important relationship, a long-standing relationship, an intense relationship, when that relationship ends for whatever reason, it can be really, really difficult to deal with on the emotional level and on the mental level as well. Our mind is also very much engaged in something like this, and what I find happens with people, including myself in the past, I've gone through it as well, so I know of what I speak, unfortunately. I've found in the past when I went through these difficult moments with dealing with heartache and pain, loss. Now this could be even, loss of a pet and what have you. I mean, we feel very strong emotions towards our pets, our belongings, a lot of things that we're attached to. When we have the attachment going on, it's really hard to let go sometimes. So when a relationship, for example, falls apart and we feel that extreme pain, we go through a grief period, much like when someone passes. There's the stages of grief, the denial, and so forth, until we finally come to acceptance. The problem is that a lot of people get stuck in the first level, the despair, and then there's the denial. It's like we don't want to accept that this has happened. We don't want to think about what's going on here because it's too painful. So mainly what we're doing is we're trying to run and avoid dealing with the emotions attached to that loss. And when we do that, and there's several different ways that people will do it. Some people use substances in order to, drown their sorrow. Others will just get into another relationship right away and try and forget about it that way. Unfortunately, those types of things are just band-aids, and they're not really good or healthy for us in the long term. So what I have learned, the best practice is to integrate the emotions, feel to the very depths. Like say, for example, you lose someone that was extremely important to you, and you feel that emotion. We try to run naturally from it because we don't like pain, especially if we've been down this road before. We try to avoid, we do everything in our power to try to avoid dealing with the pain, when really the best practice is to just feel it. Get in our feelings and feel it. Just, if you have to lock yourself away for a few hours just on your own, and just observe your feelings and what it is you're feeling, the loss, the pain, and let it go. Feel it to the fullest of the depths of your feelings. And sometimes it can be so excruciating, it feels like we're actually going to have a physical death. That's why we try and avoid it. But really, you're not going to go there. You're not going to die from a broken heart. You're really just going to be in your feelings, feeling the loss, the pain, the sorrow, go through all the stages of the grief of the loss. And then when you've hit rock bottom with your feelings, where you just can't go any further with them, we all will eventually bottom out. I mean, we can't just keep feeling and feeling and feeling, and it's a bottomless pit, a black hole that we cannot get out of. We can we will eventually sort of hit the bottom with the emotions where we can't feel anymore. We can cry our eyes out, we can scream, yell, do whatever you want, whatever feels right to you. But observe your feelings and acknowledge your feelings. Because when we do that, we're dealing with it in a lot healthier way. All our emotions really want from us is just acknowledgement. They want us to acknowledge that, yes, this is here, that yes, this hurts, but I will survive. So when you try to avoid dealing with these pains that are there naturally or only hit the surface with them, it just stays there, and it stays in the body, and it stays in the mind, and will manifest in other ways, such as illnesses, especially if you suppress your emotions of grief and loss for a long period of time. If you're just doing other things to, you know, help you get through the day, through substance, through other relationships to just replace the one that is lost, it really doesn't work, especially that one where we just break up with somebody and then all of a sudden we turn around and look to get involved in another relationship thinking that is going to heal us. That doesn't heal us. Feeling our feelings is what heals us. And really, you don't give the new relationship a fighting chance when you do that, because you need to heal first from the original heartbreak and the sadness and the sorrow. Go through the grieving process. And once you are done with that, then you can emerge as a healed person. So that way, if you get into another relationship after the fact, you at least have a fighting chance of it working out. Because unfortunately, a lot of people, I've seen them in loops where they just go from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, and it always ends up in the same place. It's kind of like Groundhog Day. It just keeps repeating the pattern over and over again. And that's because the initial healing wasn't done in the first place. So my recommendation in this type of situation is to always feel what you're feeling. Acknowledge your feelings. That's all they want from you, is to acknowledge the feelings. Once you have completed that process, then give yourself time. I would say the second step is to now treat yourself really well. Once you realize you're still a little bit raw, you're still a little bit delicate after you've completed this process. And so that's a good time to treat yourself to anything, say a short vacation or even a long vacation if you can afford the time and the finances to do so. That's a great time to treat yourself to taking a trip to someplace you've always wanted to go, or to even take a spa day where you just go off on your own and get the full treatment, the massage and all of that stuff. Just do things to help you return back to you again. But it's best to do that once you've already gone through the grieving process. And the grieving process takes time, and it's different for everyone. So not everyone grieves or heals at the same. You can't put a time limit on it and say, well, I'm only going to give myself this much time and then I'm going to be done with it. You have to really feel what you're, and only you will know when you're finished grieving, because you will get the signal from your mind, from your body, that it's time to move on. And when it is time to move on, once the process is done, you are healed and you've given yourself the treat, then the whole thing from that point on is about letting go of the past, letting go of feeling if this person is going to return, whatever, because sometimes, a lot of times, breakups will end up like that. They break up, people will break up, and then they do a time apart. If it's all goes well, two people can both do the healing on their own and then later return back to each other and, you know, give it another shot. But the whole thing here is to not hold on to that, because a lot of times relationships end, they end for a reason, because that person could have just been there in your life to teach you something, and that lesson has already been learned by you, and it's time to move on. So the best practice is, once that is over and the healing process has been completed, to let go. It's so important at that stage to let go of the past and just start looking forward. Again, this is where the inner drill sergeant comes in. You'll have to be very vigilant and disciplined with your mind when it starts going back or thinking back about the relationship, no matter what it is, how you've incurred this loss, whether someone has passed away or someone has left your life, whether it was a friendship, a family member, your significant other, whatever has happened, it's in that moment, it is gone. You know, grieve it and accept it and move on from there. Now, whatever the future holds, you don't want the future to be a repeat of the past because it didn't work out too well in the past. So whatever the future holds for you is what your future holds. So that's a good thing to focus in on, is where you're going from this point on. We can't change the past. If someone has passed away and we have all these regrets about, I should have done this, I should have done that, it's kind of pointless because you're not going to get that opportunity. Let's be real, okay? The person has passed, and grieve that relationship and the loss of that relationship and let it go and forgive yourself. Forgive the other person if they were involved with hurting you. Forgiveness is always a good practice. And just move on thinking about your future, because we have to move forward no matter how much we would have loved this person and to still be around in our lives. The fact of the matter is they're not. And if that person really did love you, then they want you to be happy. Remember that. So your happiness is really important going forward. Always honor the relationships that touch your heart, no matter how short, no matter how long they were, if they were a 20-year marriage or, you know, a 2-year relationship. If they were important to you, they were important to you. Don't deny that. Feel what you feel. And afterwards, treat yourself really well. Move forward. Let the past go and start focusing in on your future and all the beautiful things you want to bring into your future. This way, if you're healed, you'll be in a good vibrational spot. If you meet someone new, chances are that person's going to be in your vibrational range, and you have a good shot at actually having a really good relationship, or a relationship going really well. So those are my thoughts on dealing with heartbreak, grief, separation, and all of these types of things. Remember, it's hard. All of us go through it. Nobody escapes it. If we get attached to even an animal, if we're single all of our lives, but we have, you know, like that relationship with animals that are very important to us, you're going to lose the animals at some point. We can't avoid loss, and it's best to deal with it, to honor it, and to grieve it, and to cry if you need to cry, and move on from there so that you can have a better future. And don't be fearing attachments, because you're going to have a lot of attachments in your life, and that's okay. Love it while it's there and release it when it's no longer there anymore. That's the best way to deal with attachments, I have found. When it's time to let it go, just let it go and try and move forward. You can do it. Okay, well, this is Star Lourdes signing off for this week, and thank you very much for joining me. I look forward to hearing from you in the comments, and much love. Namaste. Bye-bye.